One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. Our guest today is Eugene Marshall. Gene is currently the Director of Athletics at Hampton University. Greetings, Gene. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, Gene, you've been at Hampton coming up on 5 years here. You spent 34 years in college athletics, including time as an AD and as a coach. You coached men's and women's basketball during those 34 years. And since you've been at Hampton, you made some great accomplishment in terms of academics and significant athletic accomplishments. Now, what I have you on today is I want to talk to you a little bit about the move where Hampton has moved from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference to the Big South Conference. I think this is a pretty major move, obviously, for an HBCU to leave an HBCU conference and go to a conference that consists of predominantly white institutions. It's not the first time it's done. I think Tennessee State did something similar 30 some odd years ago. But I really would like to know about your communication process to Hampton's key stakeholders when you were pondering this decision to change conferences. You probably had to tell them why the move and the benefits of the move and things like that. Can you give us some insight on that communications process?
Well, I think our president, Dr. William R. Harvey, who's a pretty visionary leader, had been planning and looking way before I arrived on campus. And so when you look at Hampton as one of the best mid-sized universities in the country, and we want our athletic department to mirror that and try to be one of the best mid-sized athletic departments in Division I, you look at how you can continue to better your position. Hampton has a history of athletic success and also movement. They were one of the founders of the CIAA. In 1995, Dr. Harvey decided that he wanted to move to Division I, and he moved to the MEAC. Now, planned, plotted it out, and let his alumni and everybody know. At that same time, the university decided to add sailing as a varsity sport. And 90% of those student athletes are from Europe. That expands our student base to now European coffers and bringing in European student athletes, which is part of diversity and inclusion, which is what Hampton is founded on by its founder, General Samuel Chapman Armstrong, when he founded Hampton in 1868 to educate newly freed slaves, Native Americans, and women. So we fast forward, I come in 2014, and we're looking at ways to continue to improve our athletic program academically, athletically, and also socially, because you want to expand your footprint. So we've had other interests, and in that time, we added men's lacrosse. We became the first historically black college university to have a men's lacrosse program. And then we added women's soccer. And then we decided, with Dr. Harvey's approval, he also went out about a year or so before and spoke to some alumni, the Booster Club, and asked their opinion on possibly leaving the MEAC. And, because one of the things we all looked at is this conference expansion has really run rapid throughout Division I, II, and III. And we want to be on the cutting edge. And he explained that to everybody. And we want to find an institution that's going to help us academically and athletically, not just going for the sake of athletics. And there were mixed feelings. Some wanted to hold on to the tradition. Some understood. When we made the decision, we then had a conference call with all of our major alumni to let them know first. And it was mixed because people did not want to leave the comforts of the MEAC. But as time went on, they began to understand the power ratings, which used to be RPI, now the metric. They look at how conferences are perceived and how people are looked at. They looked at how Hampton has continued to be the first in a number of things. So this is really not anything new moving. Also in 1984, somewhere around there, they went from Hampton Institute to Hampton University. And then in the 90s or 2000s, they started the Hampton University Proton Therapy Institute, which treats cancer. And it's one of the it was one of the first standalone cancer treatment centers in the world. And people ask, why does an HBCU do that? Well, it's not because of an HBCU, it's because it's a university that happens to be an HBCU.
All right. Now, I'd imagine, Eugene, that in that process of communicating with those alumni and key stakeholders and President Harvey talking to the governing structure you have there at Hampton, when you put it in context of the changes that Hampton has been on the forefront of over the years, as you mentioned, from CIAA to the MEAC up to Division I, starting a sailing program, which wasn't a regular thing at HBCU, starting men's lacrosse recently, women's soccer, and of course that Proton Therapy Institute. When you put it in context, I guess communication with those key stakeholders probably made sense to them. Like, this is not just a one-time thing. This is what we do at Hampton. How was that part when you had to spell it out to them? I mean, you said you went from some people didn't believe and then they started believing when you actually had to explain everything to them.
I think it took time. Like everything, it takes time. When you change tradition and history, it has to set in. For me, it probably was a little bit difficult for them to take because I did not go to an HBCU. And I did not work for 29 of my 34 years at an HBCU. So they look at me as an outsider, trying to change them. But when they finally had a chance to see what we're doing, people started to understand. Also, our partners in the MEAC and some of the schools in the SWAC, some of the other HBCU institutions weren't too happy with it, didn't want to play us. I think they now see the value in what we're trying to do. And because of my background with the BCA and with the MOAA and MOIC and fighting for diversity and inclusion for most of my 34 years as a coach and administrator in athletics, I understand the value of the struggle and that everybody's not going to be on your side. But when you do what's right and what's best for your university, your student athletes, you take solace in it. And in time, people come around. And I think that the thing that was really positive was the reception that I received from majority universities, from majority conferences, and from majority athletic administrators and coaches from around the country who contacted me and applauded the courage of our president and my leadership as an athletic director. And also, behind closed doors, folks would come to me and from HBCU schools and would laud what we have done, but they couldn't say it, loud because they had to protect their constituents.
So I wonder, Gene, some of the folks who are, they're heavy tradition folks, people who probably are still not on board, which will probably come on board over time. Some of them may be people who are important to what you do there at Hampton. What is your process on, I guess, reconciling the relationship for those who aren't initially supportive, but, obviously if winning cures all type situation, but beyond that, what is your process for reaching out to those folks over time?
Well, I think we just continue to work. You continue to do what you do. You try to be respectful. You understand their point of view. You keep them informed, and you just keep going forward. We've made a lot of changes around here that people are not happy. We've kind of changed some traditions, but athletics has changed and evolved. And one of the things we're trying to do is keep athletics relevant. And one of the major things was the commitment by our faculty, led by our provost, Dr. Joanne Haysbert, and chancellor, to really support the student athletes and help us to raise the level of academic success and raise the profile. And so our success academically is a university initiative. It's not just an athletic department. This came from the president to the chancellor provost on down to the deans, who have been great colleagues of mine and very supportive, to the chairs, to the actual instructors, and the professors that travel with the teams. So everybody's bought in, and it's a family institution where everybody works together, and they understand how hard we work in the classroom. So in turn, they support us on the field of friendly strife, like we used to say at West Point, and we've been successful.
Well, Eugene, it sounds like you made this decision. You guys communicated with who you needed to communicate to. You get people on board. The university as a whole, from top to bottom, sounds like they're on board. And if they aren't on board, you're continuing to communicate with them to bring them on board. And athletically, academically, this move made sense for Hampton, and you guys are moving forward with the full head of steam.
One thing about Hampton University and its alumni, they are resilient, they are supportive, they're inquisitive, they have an opinion, which is fine, but they're supportive. And so I listen to their views, and we make some adjustments sometimes when we feel that the adjustments are needed. So I think they understand what we're trying to do. There's a lot of support out there with some of our alumni who talk to their classmates and other alums and try to explain it to them. But I think they've been, overall, everybody's been supportive. Even if they disagree, they've been supportive. So I can't say enough positive things about our alumni.
All right, well, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
My pleasure.
That was Eugene Marshall. He's the Director of Athletics at Hampton University. We talked about Hampton's recent move from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference to the Big South Conference. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.